gang. Welcome to the Alpha Shift podcast. I think we're on episode 25. I'm David Kruger, your host with the Alpha Shift. Great to be back with you guys. This episode, we're going to talk about how to make her or anyone like you, honor you, respect you, do what you want, respond favorably to you. Wouldn't it be great if there was a how-to that would teach you exactly how to do this, that would give you that magic bullet that would make you likable and make everyone respond to you in the way that you want? Well, such a thing exists, and it's always existed. And we're going to talk about that coming up here in a few minutes. A couple of weeks ago, I put a survey out to my email list. I wanted to know what your greatest concerns were, what your greatest challenges were, what stressed you out. And I got some interesting responses. So what we're going to do here for a couple of minutes is I'm going to go through this because I think it's very interesting. These responses, I went through all of the responses from podcast listeners and email subscribers, everyone who took the survey. And I came up with the top 8 or 9 responses for each question. The questions that I mean, there are several questions. I'm not going to share the answers to all, but there are 3 primary questions I'm going to share the answers to. The first one I asked these guys is, what is your primary challenge in your relationship or with women in general? And the second question is, what in your estimation is your biggest shortfall as a man? And the third question is, what one thing about yourself would you change if you could? And so I took all of the answers and kind of came up with 8 or 9 aggregate ideas from all of the responses. So the first question, what is your primary challenge in your primary relationship with women? This is answers from guys like you. Number 1, can't get an erection. I found that interesting. The median age of my podcast listener and email subscriber is 35 to 55 years of age. Even on the high end, you shouldn't be having, unless you have serious health problems, circulation issues, or a heart condition, erectile dysfunction shouldn't be a part of your life. What I think a lot of you guys are going to find is ED, the inability to get an erection, is completely psychological. Your body is trying to protect you. It doesn't want to fuck this woman that you're trying to tell it to fuck for whatever reason. It's probably not because your body has this fear that the vagina has teeth. It's probably more along the lines of you are guarded, closed to this woman. Maybe you're protecting yourself emotionally on a subconscious level. Is this someone that you frequently have drama and fighting with? Ask yourself that. You know, if you're in a relationship or a marriage and you know you're frustrated and now you're having ED when you try to have sex, it's all related. You are not feeling good or at ease or good about any of this stuff. It's just my 2 cents, and we'll go into that further in the future. Number 2 answer to primary challenge. I'm too much of a nice guy. Yeah, I hear that all the time. Too much of a nice guy. Which often translates to, I'm way too concerned about what she thinks. I operate all day long with a fear of losing her, and so I put up with bad behavior and with my own weakness create more bad behavior. 3, I can't create attraction. Yeah, that's what brings a lot of guys to the Alpha Shift. She's just not interested. She's not into me like she used to be. Or maybe your girl you're after just isn't into you at all. The first thing you have to let go of is wanting that. Wanting her to be into you, needing her to be into you, that's an attraction killer right there. Again, things we're going to go into a lot more in the future. Number 4, not telling the truth. Certainly very closely related to being a nice guy. Not telling the truth about what you're feeling, not telling the truth about your opinions on things. There are times to tell the truth and times not to. As a man, if your idea of telling a woman the truth is getting emotional and crying in her lap about everything that's bothering you, I would suggest that's not the kind of truth you want to tell. A lot of men want to make their wives into their mother, and they call it telling the truth. That's not telling the truth, that's acting like a child. You want to make her your mommy, you're going to kill any kind of attraction. Telling the truth is making a stand for what you believe in. It's telling her that in your house, we are not putting that Joe Biden sign out on the lawn. Trump 2020, baby. Just using an example, don't mean to trigger anybody. That is standing for your truth. Truth would be, look, this is my mission in life. I'm going to have to work late a few nights. And I'm going to have to hold true to that. And if you have a problem with that, I'm sorry. But we might have to reevaluate the nature of our relationship. That's standing your ground. That's telling the truth. Number 5, primary challenge in relationship, hypergamy. Wow. Okay. For those of you who don't know the term hypergamy, it's spelled Hypergamy. It is, I believe it's a Latin derivation, and it's gamy meaning marriage, hyper meaning up. It's a woman's tendency to marry up, to find powerful men, to get the best deal that she is going to get. The idea being that in the days before writing and air conditioning, cavemen and women lived in tribes, and a woman, if she wanted herself and her offspring to survive, needed to take care that she attached herself to the strongest, most powerful man possible, often the alpha, or the leader of the tribe, or grouping of cave people. And so she would secure protection and safety. And then if a bigger, stronger alpha came along and killed her alpha, she would attach herself to the other guy, to the new guy who's even stronger. Branch swinging, they call it. It's like a monkey swings from higher and higher branches. And so dating gurus and relationship guys call that hypergamy, and they translate that into the modern dating and relationship scene as this is a woman who they call a gold digger, or who leaves her nice guy boyfriend for the bad boy who gets her loins tingling, or leaves her husband for the guy who's got more prestige and more money and, can take her on really cool vacations and put her up in a big house, as opposed to marrying her college sweetheart who just has a modest income. That's, the woman who keeps climbing, looking for the better deal, leaves one guy for a better guy. That's hypergamy, and that's what these guys are saying is a very big deal in their relationships. Number 6, primary challenge, lack of emotional connection. Quality time spent laughing, bodily contact, kindness. So basically, a lack of niceness, a lack of intimacy. Common problem, and oftentimes a symptom of so many of these other things. So much of this is interrelated. Number 7, primary challenge, a woman's lack of interest. Yeah, that's a pretty big problem. You can't help that one once it's happening. You can't make her be interested in you. You can't negotiate genuine desire. Ever. So, when you have a problem with a lack of interest, really what you're looking at is you're looking forensically at what went wrong and what can I do right in the future, probably with the next woman. Woman's lack of loyalty. Yeah, that's a thing these days, isn't it? Women have been taught to put marriage off, that they can leave a relationship whenever it doesn't suit them, and they can always look for the best deal. That's just how it is these days. That's a whole conversation in and of itself. And again, not something you can't change other people. You can be the most attractive specimen you can ever be, and then use your own discernment and be real careful who you get into relationships with. Number 9, financial problems. And that's something that comes up again and again and again, and we're going to get to that in the future. Second question, what in your estimation is your biggest shortfall as a man? Number 1, again, can't get an erection. I'm going to have an erection episode coming up here, and I think I'm going to cover it, at least have a section on it in the new course. We really need to unpack what's going on with your Johnsons, because I know it's stressful. I went through a period after my divorce where I had on and off erectile dysfunction, and it stressed me the fuck out. So I definitely hear you, and in my case, it was certainly psychological, emotional, deep emotional wounding that was going on after I spent all kinds of money on crazy drugs and stuff because I wanted a solution right now. So calm down. I'm going to give you some tools and some things coming up in future episodes to deal with it, to clear some of those emotional blockages. And I can also show you this awesome Chinese herbal supplement, which gives you Captain America powers in bed. But again, if you have a psychological issue, that's cutting off the blood flow, that's no amount of rocket fuel is going to get you going if your mind is shutting you down. Number 2, I'm a pushover, weak, nice guy. That's come up again. 3, poor conversationalist. 4, number 4, and the biggest shortfall as a man, don't understand women, the female mind. 5, I'm not financially stable. That's a big one. 6, not able to satisfy my wife's needs. That goes right along with not understanding women or the female mind. You're going to get a lot farther in bed understanding the female mind and the female heart than any sort of technique about how to make her squirt or any other dipshit thing. I mean, that's all great, but not all that terribly necessary. A woman gets the tingles from how you make her feel, not from how well you rub her whatever, but how she's feeling in your presence, the excitement level she gets. And that's going to come from you and your presence, not from some trick you learned in a book about G-spot orgasms. Again, we'll go more into that later. Not able to satisfy, okay, I said not able to satisfy my wife's needs, I think. Number 7, biggest shortfall as a man, not standing my ground for what I know is right. Sounds just like not telling the truth and too much of a nice guy from the previous section. See, these, even within these main answers, these main sections, we have recurring themes. Number 8, biggest shortfall as a man, not being appreciated for doing what I want in my relationship. I read that as I am trying to be in my truth and lead, and she's giving me a whole lot of kickback, a whole lot of pushback. Well, when you're in an already established relationship with a woman who has been taught to be independent and dominant, and you start doing dominant things, you're going to get a lot of pushback. In a lot of cases, it ends the relationship. Don't expect it to go completely smooth in the beginning, especially if you, my man, have been a pushover in the past. Last question I asked, what one thing about yourself would you change if you could? Once again, get an erection. Number two, one thing they would change is better blood flow. Probably the same guys who can't get an erection are obsessing about that. Be better looking. Well, we can't change what God gave you. But in my original course, The Alpha Shift, I have an entire section on grooming and fashion and ways to project the vibe you want to project. You can't change what God gave you, but you can get some style, get a good wardrobe, stand up straight, take care of yourself, get fit, lose weight if you need to. Number four, drink less. Well, great, then drink less. I have little to say there. Five, financial stability. We're going to be going into this in the future too. We can all explore ways to be more financially solid and financially versatile. You know, the old ways of creating savings and security, not as secure as they used to be. How many people went upside down during this COVID pandemic and are still going upside down? You got to be fast on your feet. You got to be able to unload what you don't need quickly. You know, you got to be nimble. It's not enough anymore to amass a lot of money in a big house and stuff, and I've got all these retirement savings. You got to be fast on your feet now. You know, you got to be able to pivot quickly in changing circumstances and not be emotionally devastated if something turns upside down on you, if you lose an investment, if you lose a home. You know, you can't be this stockbroker who's jumping off the 30th floor window because you had a bad day in the market. So a lot of financial stability is emotional stability as well. We're going to go into that. 7, being strong enough to say no and walk away from a negative relationship. And number 8, by the way, is more confidence. Those go right together. To have that power to just be able to walk away and say, fuck you. That is the most powerful position you can be in a relationship. If you'll walk away, if she crosses the line and you'll walk away and she knows it, you're in a very powerful position. Most men are not in that position. Most men are getting approval and validation from the pretty girl that they married. And they don't get that walk away vibe until the marriage has gone so far down the tubes that she's already got a boyfriend and is just waiting for you to file for divorce, or she can file for divorce so she can take half of everything you own. It's a little late at that point. So what I'm seeing here, a general theme, and I'm covering this in my new course, The Alpha Code, which is currently in production. I'm working on it right now. We're going to cover all of these things. We're going to cover confidence, being independent of outcome, personal power. And through those things, you're going to be more attractive. You're going to develop attraction. Women will be interested in you. I'm going to cover things. I'm going to get your end of things cleaned up. And that's going to be awesome. You're going to feel great. What that's not going to do, though, it's not going to ensure that you run off into the sunset living happily ever after with the woman of your choice. Because quite frankly, the woman of your choice could be an asshole. You could start doing everything right, becoming stronger, becoming more attractive. And a funny thing starts to happen. You start to weed out women who aren't good enough, women who have negative attitudes, women who are self-centered, women who were raised by modern parents, let's just say that, to be independent and strong and not need a man. If that's how she's thinking, don't marry her, if she doesn't know how to be a good wife, if she's not conditioned to be a good wife, meaning putting being a wife first and being loyal and loving first, then she's not going to be a good wife. It's simple math. Women like that, or that you can date them. You can have fun with them. Don't play house and don't get married. I want to really start to shift your expectations. So many of the times, so many reasons we're unhappy in our relationships with women is because we have expectations that can never be fulfilled. And there's different levels of that. There's, sometimes, we want happiness and validation and love that we can only give ourselves anyway. We're looking to be completed. This is a more general concept. Men and women both do this. Sometimes we're looking to be completed by bringing this person into our life. We think that, well, when I find that right girl and we get married and, get our life set up, everything will be perfect. Well, no, it won't be perfect. It won't necessarily be any better than it is right now. It's not going to change your internal state. It's not going to make you a happier person, a better person, a nicer person if you're not that person already. If you've got some sort of liability in your personality, if you've got issues, bringing a partner into your life will actually magnify those issues, not sweep it under the rug. So you really need to have your shit together before you go and have your own life built, before you go and try to build a life with someone else. The other side to that is a lot of guys think that as soon as they get their act together, they get financially stable, they can get an erection, they get their purpose in life, they do all the things that Dave Kruger taught them to do in the Alpha Shift and the Alpha Code courses. Now everything is going to magically be perfect. And my wife, who didn't respect me, is going to respect me, or I'm going to be a chick magnet, and I'm going to have all these wonderful, dream girls who just want to run off and marry me. That's not necessarily true either. And that's because what you're going to find is what you want might not exactly exist the way you thought it did in the world. It's back in the day, back in the Ward and June Cleaver 1950s, back in the Leave It to Beaver days. Some people idealize those times as back in the good old days, before feminism, when a woman knew how to take care of a man. There was a social contract in place then. No, women did not typically venture into the workplace and compete with men. It was more of a Christian based, where the woman would stay home and take care of the home and take care of the children, and the man would go out and earn the living. And it was a social contract that was agreed upon. It was what was expected. And there are things about social contracts that work. There was order to it. Generally speaking, it was good for the kids. It wasn't perfect. The men and women who lived in those conditions and under those circumstances were not perfect. And ultimately, the circumstances, I think, were ripe for women to express frustration and look and want to change. And that has shifted, perhaps even overreacted over the last 5 decades to the point where we got where we're at now, where marriage is in free fall decline, men are going MGTOW, and dating is doesn't even exist. I mean, we just swipe on Tinder looking for a hookup. So what's going to have to happen moving forward, if normal, educated men and women from Western society are going to continue to reproduce at all, is we're going to all have to get a lot more conscious about the dynamics between male and female, about how it works with men and women. We can't go on assumed social contracts anymore. We can't go on autopilot. Guys, you need to know this stuff I'm talking about. And women who actually have a lot of power in relationships are going to have to get educated too. Whenever I talk to a woman who's like, well, hey, do you do any training for women? I usually send them to one of my favorite authors, a woman named Suzanne Venker, who she calls herself the feminist fixer. And she coaches primarily women, but she does relationship coaching too. And she really teaches women how to undo the programming of modern society, and it's wonderful. And I think the work that she does is some of the most important there is, because women need to know this stuff. Women are so powerful. Think about it, guys. If your wife, if your girlfriend knew how to basically shut the fuck up and stop bitching, smile at you, be kind to you, take time with you, and then ask you nicely for things that she wanted. If you felt good about her, and if every time she touched you, your hair stood on end on your arm because she's so sweet and she's just, knows how to get what she wants from you, you would jump the fuck up and do whatever she asked you to do. Usually when a woman asks a man to do something, take out the trash, can you help me with it's some stupid thing that you could do in 5 seconds. And we don't do it because she was rude. Because she barged in on our decompression time in the man cave and made a demand in an angry way. It's just, they do things unconsciously or lazily. So as much work as you and I and all the guys have to do, women have to do a lot of work too in understanding the male-female dynamic and putting it to work in their favor. So that's the positive future I see, is people getting a lot more deliberate about their intimate relationships, not taking it for granted anymore. People take more time to plan a vacation or a trip out of country than they do to plan their marriage, their life, or they spend more time planning the wedding day than what they're going to do every day after the wedding day. And that's all got to change. And I think that will change. I think that the current conditions, I think marriage being in free fall, I think all of these things that look so scary are going to lead to positive change. A lot of times that's what it takes. So, how to get people to do what you want? How to get women to be nice to you? Or women could use this secret too. How to get men to do anything they want. I'm going to go over some secrets. Or we could say, and this is a big hint for what I'm going to talk about, how to win friends and influence people. A book that has been in print for almost a century now. Dale Carnegie's classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's one of the first books my mentor told me to read 10 years ago now. One of the simplest how-to books, but it contains some of the most priceless and useful wisdom available today. I've got a summary that I've printed up, and I'm going to go over a few points from it, and we're going to talk about it. These are time-honored techniques on how to make people like you. The book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Who wouldn't want to know how to do that and then do it all the time? And these techniques are not being used in droves today. I think that certainly the political and the national discourse, the way that I see friends treating each other on social media, I know we live in very interesting times right now, but man, we have turned to, I'm going to call it digital barbarism. We're spending so much time, so much of our communication is done digitally, and we're literally barbaric with each other. I'm going to suggest going back to some time-honored wisdom on winning people over, on building goodwill. And I'm going to give you a hint before I start here. If you apply these techniques in your personal relationships, in your intimate relationships, you will see magic take place. You will absolutely see magic take place. First section in the book, don't criticize how techniques in handling people. Number 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Most of you spend 90% of your day criticizing, condemning, complaining, whining, and bitching. So number 1, you're going to go cold turkey on the complaining, the whining, and the bitching. I learned to stop bitching a long time ago. Number 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. So not only do you have to stop whining, bitching, and complaining at people, but give them honest and sincere appreciation. How do you feel when someone appreciates you? How do you feel when someone sincerely says a good word about you? Conversely, how do you feel when they criticize, when they condemn, when they complain? Think about how you feel when people treat you that way. Think about it. It's common sense, isn't it? Get out of your head. Think about how the other person receives it. Now think about that with your wife. I mean, Dale Carnegie, you read this book, he gives you most of the examples he gives you are business. How to deal with someone in business. But think about this. Think about if you stopped criticizing your wife. Stop bitching, stop being defensive. And give her honest and sincere appreciation, even when you don't feel like it. Even when you want to bitch and complain. See, this is the thing about self-control. Using self-control means doing and saying what you know is right, even when you don't feel like it. Even when you want to lash out, even when you want to be defensive, even when you want to be lazy. The next section of the book, 6 ways to make people like you. Number 1, become genuinely interested in other people. People love it when you're interested in them. When you ask. You ask how their kid's doing. You ask how that project's going. When you show interest in them. How annoying is it when someone just prattles on and on and on about themselves? You want to roll your eyes and blow your brains out. Number 2, smile. Number 3, remember that a person's name is the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Big trick to endearing yourself to people. Endearing yourself to somebody you just met. Endearing yourself to your wife of 20 years. Use her name in a sentence. Mary, what do you think of this? Hi, Mary, it's so nice to see you again. Mary, I miss you. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. That to me goes right along with number 1, be genuinely interested in other people. Listen attentively. Ask them questions. Interact. Be an active listener. Number 5, talk in terms of the other person's interests. If you know he's a football aficionado, talk about football. If you know he's into gardening or she's into gardening, talk about that. Direct the conversation towards someone's serious interests. 6, make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. Make them feel that they matter to you. This will endear you to people in your life and in business. And guys who are In long-term relationships or married, this could get you laid a lot more often. When she feels that she's genuinely important to you, genuinely important, she doesn't feel that you're just phoning it in, doing your time, trying to get what you want from her. When you don't want anything from her, and her concerns and her needs are important to you, it will melt her in ways that you cannot imagine. The next section of the book, win people to your way of thinking. Carnegie says, number one, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. That's true. You never win an argument. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. You could go on Facebook and get into a fight with your friend about hydrochloroquine, or what are they fighting about now, about COVID-19, about masks, and you could show him all kinds of articles proving your point. But if he's afraid, if he's convinced he's right, you're just going to piss him off. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Avoid the argument. Number two, this might be real hard for some of you jackasses out there. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say you're wrong. You could say, I don't necessarily see it that way, you might want to consider, but don't say you're wrong. Don't tell people they're stupid. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. If you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Let the other person do a great deal of the talking. If you're trying to get someone to come around to an idea, this is a nice twist he puts on it. Let the other person feel the idea is his or hers. Make them think it's their idea. That's how you get your boss to sign off on something. Make them think it's their idea. Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view and repeat it back to them. Be sympathetic to the other person's ideas and desires. Oftentimes we argue because we feel our interests are threatened. And if we give an inch, they'll take a mile. So be interested in what the other person wants. Make it clear to them. You'll win them over to your way of thinking. There's also a section in the book on being a leader, how to change people, change their minds without giving offense or arousing resentment. If you have people working under you at work, listen to this one carefully. If you have a wife who doesn't listen to direction very well and fights against you whenever you try to do anything, listen to this section very carefully. When you're trying to get something done or make a change, one, begin with praise and honest appreciation. When you do call attention to a mistake, do it indirectly. And before you do, talk about some of your own mistakes. Instead of giving a direct order or making a demand, ask a question. Well, you think maybe it would be better if we did this? Or maybe should we consider blah, blah, blah? Women are pretty good at using this on you guys. Try using it on her. Because you're always going to let the other person save face. Someone in your employ, a friend of yours, an intimate partner, should never feel that they're getting a dressing down. That never helps. That only creates resentment. And in the case of an intimate relationship, it closes her off to you, ultimately, permanently. Praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. You can't do it enough. You can't do it enough. You want positive emotion attached to you. In her mind, you need to be attached to lots of positive emotion. When she thinks of you, when you walk into the room, there needs to be lots of positive emotion. See how that works? What happens is we get into these negative spirals and we get into bitter fighting and feuding and pouting because we're not getting our way. And in the other person, all of these negative triggers get locked in and associated with us. After she's been fighting with her husband for God knows how long, she's like, oh, my husband, Mark, oh, God, I don't even want to see him. And it's like just the thought of you becomes this feeling. You got to turn that around. And you're doing it just to do it. You're not giving praise and you're not doing all of these things like a nice guy would, with the agenda to get a positive result. That's why sometimes when guys first start doing this stuff, it doesn't work because you're doing it from this pathetic, needy, okay, I'm going to do this so that everything will be fine and she'll give me what I want. No. You have to be desireless. And we're going into that in the new course. One of the key things for success in your relationships is you need to be without desire, without need for her. A woman can smell an agenda like shit on a shoe. A woman can smell an agenda like shit on a shoe. You're going to do this stuff because it's who you are. Everything I'm talking about in the courses, in this podcast, in everything I write is about a transformation in you. The transformation in you will transform the world around you that you experience. It'll transform your relationships. It'll change what kind of women you associate with, what kind of relationships you have with them. It will affect your income, your life circumstances, everything. It's all about you. If you're trying to handle things at the level of surface and at the level of external, you're never going to fix a damn thing. You're going to go through your whole life running around in circles, never really improving. Living that life, as they say, of quiet desperation. Everything I'm throwing at you guys is about personal transformation, about transforming the man that you are into the man that you want to be. You're not happy where you're at, and you want to get to a higher place. That's why you listen to this podcast. And as long as I am doing this podcast, I will do my best to deliver the best transformation, the best content, and the best empowering kick in the ass that I can. So your reading assignment for this episode, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I would also encourage you to check out my course, The Alpha Shift. It's going to be discontinued soon. When the new course comes out, I think I'm going to take the other course off the market. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. And I would strongly suggest you consider a course that has changed my life on using your energy and on manifestation. It was created by my great mentor, Kevin Trudeau. It's called Your Wish is Your Command. I'm able to make that available to you for a limited time, absolutely free. I don't know how long I'm going to keep doing that, but again, there's going to be a link to that course, that online course. It's in the show notes. Go get it. Go claim your free course. Do it now while you can. In fact, Kevin was the one who told me to read the book all those years ago, How to Win Friends and Influence People. A lot of good things coming down the pike. Again, I'm working full steam on the new course, and all that feedback that I shared with you guys in the first half of this episode, I am taking that into consideration as I create the content material and the materials. We're handling all of those things. So it's real exciting. I can't wait to get it done, bring it to market, and show you guys what I have. I would love to hear what you guys are thinking about. What would you like me to talk about in future episodes? What questions do you have? Wherever you are listening to this, or maybe you're watching the video, give me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know how you like the episode. Let me know what questions you have. Let me know what's on your mind. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, this is David Kruger with Alpha Shift Radio signing off. See you next time.